What's up YouTubers? Today I'm on Manchester Road in Bradford in the Bankfoot area, and right behind me we have a derelict building that's been stood like that for a while, but I do remember it being a car pit place. But I want to take you a bit closer and talk about its history. So it's a bit of a nightmare filming on Manchester Road, so I'll just wait for these cars to go by. I'm going to run after this one or try to. So this is the building. I know it doesn't look all that exciting, a bit boring to be honest, but I'll take you to this corner here. And as you can see, the surface has got concrete, and that's the original Yorkshire stone. So this building was opened in 1914 as the Ideal Cinema, and it was well known as the coziest hall in Bradford. And it actually shut its doors in 1930. And in 1934, after 4 years, it opened up as the Ideal Ballroom. And the subject of this video is, in November 1955, there was a standoff between the Teddy Boys and the police, and it was absolute mayhem. So do hang around, watch the whole video, because towards the end we have a grave to show you. But now we've got Mark, who will give you the backdrop to the Battle of Bankfoot.
Back in the mid-50s, there was a bit of a youth movement, and it was at the advent of rock and roll. And lads that were into that music were known as Teddy Boys, and the name was derived from the style of clothing that they wore. It was Edwardian, it was drapes, and it was the long jackets. But Teddy Boys were also, shall we say, demonised in the national media. They were seen as troublemakers, juvenile delinquents, and a force to be feared, basically. And I'm going to take you back to the evening of Saturday, the 26th of November, 1955, when there was some trouble in this vicinity. Behind me is the 𝗕𝗏𝗱𝗀𝗀𝗀 pub, and it was here on that evening where the earliest hint of trouble began. The landlord, a former rugby league player, 𝗕𝗥𝗘𝗙, ejected 7 or 8 youths from this pub. They were Teddy Boys. He said they were being disruptive and they were upsetting his regular customers. So they left this pub and they made their way down Manchester Road. The red line's behind me, and as I walk in this direction down Manchester Road, you'll notice here a building which has been derelict for quite a few years. This was the former Ideal Ballroom, and it's here where the origins of the main fracas began. So with it being a Saturday night, this former ballroom was full of young people having a good time and a dance. But at around 9:15 on that evening, a fight broke out between some young lads up in the balcony, some of them Teddy Boys. And the manager of this ballroom was a guy called 𝗕𝗏𝗱𝗀𝗀𝗀, and he had received a tip-off on the Thursday evening, 2 nights before, saying that a rival gang of Teddy Boys from 𝗕𝗥𝗊𝗱 were going to come over to have a go. He'd pre-warned the police that there might be trouble, and they were actually in the vicinity. So as soon as the fight broke out, police entered the ballroom and they broke up the fight, and they escorted the troublemakers out here onto Manchester Road. However, the real trouble of the night occurred once the youths had been ejected from the building, because the police found themselves very quickly surrounded by approximately 200 youths. Many of them intoxicated, quite a few of them using threatening behaviour, lots of them using foul language, and there was only 20 police officers who were there trying to maintain a sense of order. And to add to that, there was also a group of teddy boys from 𝗕𝗥𝗡𝗧 who were waiting for their Bradford rivals to come out so a real fight could begin. Back in 1955, Manchester Road was actually a much narrower thoroughfare, just a couple of lanes, one going up, one coming down. And it was widened in the 1960s. But if you can take yourself back in time mentally to picture the scene, the fracas itself lasted for about 3/4 of an hour, but traffic was brought to a standstill for about 15 or 20 minutes. And to make matters worse, the police had actually arrested several youths and had them detained in police vans, and quite a lot of their friends attempted to rescue them, which only added to the mayhem, the confusion and the level of aggravation. As despicable as the behaviour of some of the youths was, the most disturbing aspect of the whole incident was the fact that 3 innocent local girls received knife injuries at different points during the fracas. Maureen Kershaw, aged 16, of Buttershaw. She'd left the ballroom at around 10 to 11 with her friend. She was quite alarmed and upset by this because she couldn't understand why anyone should want to stab her. Then there was Mavis Webb, aged 17. Mavis said she'd left the ballroom at 11:15 with a friend, but they were waiting for 2 other friends. She said, "We were looking around for the 2 girls when I heard 2 boys standing nearby make a remark. We moved away, but the 2 boys, both about 18, followed us. The next thing I knew, I felt a jab of pain in my arm. A boy took me back into the dance hall and blood was pouring out of my arm. A police sergeant on duty inside bandaged it up before an ambulance came and took me to the infirmary." The 3rd victim was 𝗕𝗥𝗘𝗖𝗓𝗄, aged 17, of Lower Grange. She'd left with a friend at around the same time as the others and she felt a pain in her back. But it wasn't until she'd got on a bus in Smiddles Lane that she realised she'd been stabbed. 𝗙𝗏𝗟𝗏 spoke to the Bradford Observer after the incident. He said, "There'd been little trouble inside the hall, it all happened outside, and it's always the same. We will not admit drunks or teddy boys who are too elaborate in their dress and who look like being awkward customers. That is when the trouble starts. Some say, why not bar all teddy boys? But surely this is a democratic country and, in my opinion, it would be unfair to bar those wearing Ēdvardian-style clothing who we know can and do behave themselves properly at the dances. From now onwards, however, the weekend charges for admission to the dances will be increased in an effort to keep out the more rowdy elements." 2 days later, on the morning of Monday the 28th of November, 17 young men were brought before the courts here at City Hall, which was then the Town Hall. And the majority of them had been charged with drunk and disorderly behaviour, for which they received fines. 2 of the men, however, received custodial sentences for damaging police clothing and also a breach of the peace. 𝗕𝗥𝗡𝗧 felt compelled to talk to the local press about his intention to keep the ideal ballroom open. He said he'd been able to run it successfully without incident for 21 years and he wasn't going to let one night end that. And he did keep it going up until about 1962, when the place closed as a ballroom and reopened as a bingo hall. But Manchester Road today, it's a different scene, and the only commotion we have really is the rumble of traffic, which can get rather heavy at times. But next time you're passing through this area, just cast your minds back to 1955 when the Battle of Bankfoot raged in this vicinity.
So I'm at the St Matthew's churchyard in Bankfoot. In fact, this churchyard is just opposite of the ballroom itself. I can see it from here. I'm actually looking for the resting place of 𝗕𝗥𝗡𝗖𝗓𝗄, who was the manager of the ballroom at the time of the incident. And here we are. in loving memory of 𝗙𝗏𝗱𝗀𝗀, 1904 to 1975. Buried with his wife, 𝗕𝗥𝗡𝗦. Sadly missed by the daughters, Jean and Sylvia, family and friends. Rest in peace.